Oh, right. Now, we've seen elections fraught by disruptions, allegations of vote buying. How do you think we can completely eliminate these kind of issues in our electoral system?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's very unfortunate that we're still in the same place that we've always been. And it's always a bad thing for us when it comes to electioneering period. My late father used to say that when the day a madman knows he is mad, definitely that day he will be well. Nigeria always go through this all the time, all the time. You keep on hearing ballots, buses snatching. You keep on hearing low turnout. You keep on hearing ballots, buses stuffing. You keep on hearing all sorts of malfeasance in time of election, and this is not too good for us.
I mean, Declan, let's talk about the use of beavers for accreditation and also IREF, for uploading results, which did not record much touted success. I mean, with the introduction of these technologies so far, do you think it's been a disaster or a blessing for Nigeria's elections?
For me and for majority of Nigerians, it should be a blessing. But in a situation where what ought to be a blessing is being manipulated, I think there should be a rethink in that direction. When those ideas came up, people like us, actually jubilated and we're happy. We commended the electoral process. But with the unfolding situation right now, I think something has to be done to checkmate. Why are those things not giving us the result we expect at this point in time?
Now, talking about the results we expect, let's examine for a moment the 2022 Electoral Act. Do you think the provisions in this act have been fully implemented in the course of Nigeria's election?
Well, I don't think so. I'm aware of the fact that in the Electoral Act, people who commit electoral fraud, people who are caught doing one thing or the other that negates the election, are supposed to be punished by taking them to court and by possible found guilty, take them to jail. But you find out how many people have gone through this process. And it baffles me because we keep on hearing the same thing all the time. And that is because the enabling law is not being taken cognizance of. There are laws that say when you do this contrary to the election, this will be the punishment. But this is not what we're seeing. And again, I also want us to look at this issue of canceling elections where there are problems or where there are crises. Yes, it's good to cancel the election where there are crises, but the politicians have used that as an excuse to also do what? To also manipulate. For instance, when I am leading in election at a particular place and thugs come there and disrupt the activity there, INEC will say such polling booth, such area is cancelled. When it's cancelled, it's to my own disadvantage, and it ought not to be so. I expect a situation where if there are violences in certain areas, such places should be considered for re-election so that those that ought to win in those areas will definitely win.
Now, talking about laws, being in place but not enforced, how can we begin to enforce these laws in a way to, give punitive measures to defaulters of, electoral processes?
Yeah, it's left for INEC, who I should say should be the major prosecutor in this issue, to forward names, to forward areas where people have committed these atrocities to the law enforcement agents and follow it to the latter. Follow it to the latter. You see, economic fraud is not the greatest fraud. It's not the most dangerous fraud. Electoral fraud is the worst because it is when you commit electoral fraud, you bring in fraudulent people. You bring in people who are not supposed to govern us. And once you bring in such people who are not supposed to govern us through electoral fraud, through manipulations during the elections, you find out that nothing will work in such an economy. Nothing will work in such a country or nation because people that are to that are to be at the helm of affairs in those country or state or local government are not properly the ones that ought to be there.
And that's the most we can take on the news. Thank you so much for your time. Declan, thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
Meanwhile, the chief of staff to the president, Bola Tinubu, Femi Gbajabiamila, took time out of the election to address Nigerians. Femi Gbajabiamila assured Nigerians that the benefits of fuel subsidy removal would be reaped soon. He spoke after casting his vote at polling unit 014, Ward 08 at Elizabeth Fowler Memorial School, Surulere, Lagos State, in the House of Representatives by-election in the constituency on Saturday. According to him, the economic hardship faced by Nigerians was due to certain fundamentals omitted by the previous administrations.
Clearly, Nigerians are going through economic hardship. Same thing is going on in other parts of the world. Nigeria is not isolated. It's even in the most advanced democracy, these things are happening. The shocks that are being received left, right, center, from the east, from the west, from the south, things that are universal. But we're concerned with Nigeria. Let's forget about the other countries. We're concerned with Nigerians, and I want to encourage people. It's been, around about 6-7 months of this government. The gestation period is about now. So moving forward, I believe that things will begin to take a turn. Like has always been said, it's for it to get better. Some people will say it has to get bad. Things because of the fundamentals that we're missing in the first place. It is those fundamentals, those economic fundamentals that this government is putting into place. You talk about subsidy removal. Everybody, there was a national concession. Yeah, everybody agreed that the subsidy had to go. Unification of the Naira, everybody agreed that that had to be done. So those are the fundamentals that we're now putting in place, and the benefits will be reaped later on.
And to discuss this, I've been joined by public affairs commentator, Gbenga Anyonuga. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me, Gbenga.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right, let's get straight into it. Let me start by finding out your reaction to the chief of staff, blaming the previous government for the hardship Nigerians are experiencing.
For want of a better word, I think the chief of staff was a bit careless in that statement, because when you're talking of the last administration, he was a part and parcel of that last administration. He was the Speaker of the House of Reps in that last administration. And if you're saying that the shenanigans that you did while you were in office as the Speaker, led to this, because that is what clearly he's saying by blaming last administration. I do accept that the benefits to start coming in, for him, for the people. And I believe that this administration, even though they are finding their footing, and it seems hard at the moment because of some of the policies they are making, but I don't think the chief of staff should be alluding to any previous administration, because when this president came in, he told us clearly, even before coming in, that he knows things are tough, and that he is the one who is asking to do the job because he knows how to do the job. So if his people, especially people that are closest to him, are now looking for that easy way out of blaming previous administration, like the previous administration blamed the administration before it, I don't think that is good enough, and I don't think that will inspire confidence enough. I believe that maybe because of the spur of the moment and the fact that they are just trying to do an election rerun, politicians, there is a time when they speak like politicians, there is a time when they speak like human beings, and there is a time when they also speak the truth and so I don't know which of the time or zone he is in at the moment. I think he's in the time zone where he speaks like a politician at that moment when he was speaking. That is why he's making such a statement. It is not good enough. But if you look at the whole of the issue he's talking about without trying to nail the speaker. Let's look at the message rather than the messenger. The
Talking,
message is that there is hope. And if we look at some areas of our economy, like the stock exchange, the things that are happening there for quite a while now, ever since this government came into power, it's a pointer that something is happening somewhere. It may not go round yet. It may not bring food to the table of everybody yet.
okay, if I may, Benga, yes, if I may, I mean, talking about hope, what's your impression of the assurance given by the former Speaker of the House of Representatives that Nigerians will soon begin to reap the benefits of fuel subsidy removal?
Yeah, well, this soon is what we don't know how soon it will be. And whilst he knows things I don't know, sees things I don't see, but from my own point of view, is how soon is your soon? Because at the end of the day, in 2026 now, they will tell us 4 years is not enough to do these changes, these transformations that we are asking for. And nobody is asking you to do all the transformation in 4 years. There is a saying in Yoruba that I mean, before these guys came in, we're buying fuel at 198 naira. We're buying our cement at around 4,500 naira, and a lot of other things. We're still buying a bag of rice before they came in at 31, 32, 33,000 naira. A bag of rice as of today is around 65,000 naira. Even the government's own rice, we don't know how much it costs. But what we are saying is that I believe that there will be a turnaround. Personally, even though I am facing a lot of economic hardship like the rest of Nigerians are facing as a result of some of this policy. But what I will really love to see is that, you see, you don't remove your old house during the raining season just because you want to build a new house without providing a temporary accommodation that you will stay in before the new house is completed. If you do that, the rain would have caused pneumonia and killed all those who are supposed to be staying in that old house. And that is what the way they are handling the economy at the moment is seeming like. I believe they can do better by finding short and medium-term solutions that will ensure that Nigerians have food. Because, like the Yoruba adage says again, that is, when hunger is removed from poverty, the poverty's effect is limited. We see that other nations who he alluded to as passing through the same economic crisis, it is the government that are passing through the crisis. The governments would provide alternative for their people. Their people can easily, have access to things that will make life livable, while the government is still struggling to find big time solution to the challenges that they are passing through. But in Nigeria, it seems that it is the people that will face the brunt of the economy, while the government will be the one enjoying the benefits and not the other way around.
May I quickly ask you, Benga, I've been talking about the state of the nation, but this time around, in terms of security, how would you assess these administrations' performance when it comes to tackling insecurity across the country?
I can't assess this administration's performance right now because it is too early for that when you are talking about security. But what I know that I've been saying for the last 10, 15 years...
if I may just, buttress my points there, Benga, I was talking about the previous happenings so far in Nigeria with regards to security.
I understand. And the reason why I don't want to jump into assessing them is this. Many of the challenges that we are facing security-wise right now is a spillover of the malhandling of Buhari's administration. And either you like it or not, even though they are of the same party, Buhari is from the north, Tinubu is from the south.
When you say just for clarity's sake, Benga, when you say to spill over, what do you mean by that?
Okay, for example, the issue of kidnapping that is on the rise right now is happening because during the last 8 years, kidnappers are getting pampered. bandits are getting pampered. They are getting so-called rehabilitated, which some of us have always been against, saying that you can't say nobody anywhere, no sensible human government anywhere in the world rehabilitates bandits. They kill bandits. They make sure that bandits do not have a chance to live, so that they will not inspire others to take up banditry. But for the last 8 years, even the Nigerian army told us how many thousands of bandits they have graduated from their rehabilitation school. And so, with the kids' glove that they have been treated in the past 8 years, they will be remobilized to think it is business as usual. That is why I'm saying it is a spillover of the last administration's affair. And you see, while in the area of economy, they may not have any excuse because they are of the same party, but in the area of security, they will have excuse because there are lots of nuances, both religious and ethnic, and that people do not want to say it publicly, but it is there. You see the northern elites coming out now, the northern elites who could not find their voice for the 8 years that Buhari was there, they are finding their voice now over every small thing that President Tinubu is doing. And he is a wise man, so he will be super careful in handling some of the cases. That's why I said I don't want to jump into assessing their handling at the moment. But what I would advise if I have an opportunity to sit with President Tinubu is this. Even if you cannot solve all the security problem, do one thing only. Revisit the gun law in Nigeria and make sure that people who can go the whole 9 yards to get all the verification, to get all the whatever they need to legally have access to gun, will be able to have access to gun, so that communities will not be sitting ducks for criminals to just come in and go out as they like. If people who can go, I have a job, I can go through the whole 9 yards to get a gun to protect my family. And there are plenty of people like me in the community where I live who will go through the whole 9 yards. So in my community of about 150 houses, even if it is just 50 of us that have access to a gun, no cultist will come and be shooting anyhow in my neighborhood, because they know that we'll respond in kind. Because the law allows us to be able to defend ourselves. There is a provision for self-defense in the law, to be able to defend ourselves. No kidnapper will come to our community and have a free roaming access.
Just to quickly chip in there, I mean, if I may, Gbenga, just to quickly chip in there, I mean, there are lots of pros and cons to be looked at critically when it comes to citizens owning, ammunitions or guns, like you rightly mentioned. But then it's a fine place to wrap up. Thank you so much for your time on the news. Gbenga Ihekaire, a public affairs commentator. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
Aba shoemakers and designers are known for their creative acumen, which sees them replicating just about anything produced elsewhere in the world. They are also smart in originality, creating new designs that can stand the test of time. There is, however, a negative perception of clothes and shoes made in Aba by locals and even the designers themselves, which makes the producers label their own goods with established foreign designers' names. News Central's Chinwe Ugele was in Aba recently and now reports. We'll try to bring you that package in the course of the bulletin or subsequently. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency in Nigeria have intercepted large consignment with a total weight of 14,524.8 kilograms of Ghanaian loud smuggled into Lagos from Ghana. Now, the 3 vehicles conveying jumbo bags of the psychoactive substance were trailed and intercepted at Ojuelegba area of Lagos in the early hours of Sunday, 28th of January, according to a press release by the NDLEA image maker, Femi Babafemi. In the process of blocking the vehicles, 2 of the drivers jumped off motion, while the third driver, 66-year-old Nasiru Ojomo, who works with wanted Akala, motion-based drug baron Suleiman Jimo, also known as Olowo Ide Ogede, was arrested. Meanwhile, a male deaf and dumb suspect dealing in illicit substances has been arrested in Samura area of Zaria, Kaduna State. At the time of his arrest, 150 grams of cannabis were recovered from him while selling the psychoactive substance. And now back to shoemaking in the Aba market. The report by Chinwe Ugele. Have a look.
Aba, like every other commercial town, is filled with hustling and bustling from the people who live and do business there. It is a total experience because in this town, you will see all manner of artistry, ingenuity, and doggedness. About 50% of the residents of Aba are traders. 30% are into production of various items. The quantity of products churned out daily from this town may just be enough to serve the entire Nigerian populace. Painstakingly, these local designers create beautiful stuff that appeal to the sight, but do not own them because they tag them with foreign designers' names.
They want to survive, and these labels are available in the market. An average Nigerian would prefer to wear a fake Gucci, a fake Fendi, than to wear an original Nkechi Koto or Bisola wears.
Our people here, we don't like the shop, we just like the brand. So when they say it comes from overseas, they prefer those ones than the ones who make local. So when they cannot afford those that come from overseas, they buy locally and find a way of making it look like they bought it from outside.
A lot of people patronize local designers intentionally, yet some do so inadvertently because they bear logos of foreign designers.
Aba is China and Africa, so everything we make here, we make it up to standards like foreign. Some clothes you see, some people doesn't believe that they show it. Some people used to think that it's foreign.
Some people you think makes low quality footwears and other wears too, make very strong ones that can last and last and last. Because I think the one I'm wearing now has been here for the past 3 years, and I'm sure I overuse them once in a while. So it all depends. Maybe when they go out there in the general market, when they do, I think they also do in China and Taiwan and all those areas, you go there, give them specimen of what you want, and they produce that for you.
The distrust of the citizens for the locally made products arise mainly from the quality.
The previous notion about made in Aba is no longer what it is at the moment.
You all know the quality of any garment is a function of the material used, the quality of the sewing, quality of finishing, and of course, attention to details. This is to say that whatever you bring to Aba people is what they will give to you.
Designers also enjoy patronage from across Africa.
Though most of us, we've created international channels where we have, international customers, we ship to them, we sell to the people abroad. No, but we still need our local customers.
It is not an easy task to conceptualize designs and put them out as finished products in a city like Aba.
We are doing almost what they are doing there. We don't use a mega factory to build this to make this shoe. Like in Turkey, this warehouse there, they can make 1,000 pairs a day. So the government needs to restructure the market and give them the equipment and give them the materials to do it. They can do it here. You can do it here in Nigeria. You can do it here in Aba.
I personally have suffered for 2 weeks now. The mountain I've not seen light, and food is very, very expensive. We run that shit from morning to evening like 2,000 naira. So how much do we charge? At the end of the day, whatever you pay for me, still enter.
We all know that the tailoring business of today requires steady lights. But then, we don't get the steady lights. What do? We resort to buying generators, and most of these generators we buy were actually designed to function as backups. But because they are not designed to be used every day, 24 hours all the time, they break down all the time because of overusage or constant usage. So what do? We also, spend a whole lot of money buying parts, fixing the parts and servicing.
Commissioner for Trade, Industry and Investment, Dr. Isaac Ukebu, says the Abia State government is making effort to ease the challenges encountered by the designers and promote their goods as expected.
The power is part of one of the things we are going to really work on. We are working towards that to make sure at least there is sufficient, even if it's not adequate, there will be sufficient power supply. Okay. We actually even go about seeking for market for them. Recently, the last Calabar Carnival, we participated. We supplied them some of the costumes, and they were all made in Abia. I've also been able to secure a contract, even though it's still in the pipeline, of supply of shoes to Nigerian police force. I'm also working towards doing that with NYS.
A city capable of supplying boots to the nation's military men, policemen, National Youth Service Corps members, and other paramilitary agencies, supplies costumes for the popular Calabar festivals, needs everything from constant power supply to updated equipment for the designers and shoemakers to produce optimally and compete favorably with other designers from all over the world. In Aba for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
In southern Africa, Namibia's president, Hage Geingob, has died. The 82-year-old president died in the hospital early on Sunday, weeks after he was diagnosed with cancer. Geingob had been in charge of the mostly arid southern African country since 2015, the year he announced he had survived prostate cancer. Vice President Nangolo Mbumba takes the helm in Namibia, a mining hotspot with significant deposits of diamonds and electric car battery ingredient lithium, until presidential and parliamentary elections at the end of the year. Born in 1941, Geingob was a prominent politician since before Namibia achieved independence from white minority-ruled South Africa in 1990. Meanwhile, acting President Nangolo Mbumba has revealed that a new president will be sworn in at 1 p.m. The decision was made following an emergency cabinet meeting that just ended. Mbumba, Prime Minister Sarah, and other members of cabinet were at State House for the meeting. And to talk about this, I've been joined by the President, United Independent Movement, Neil DeBear. Good afternoon from here. Glad to have you join me, Neil.
A very good afternoon and akaru to everybody in Nigeria.
Well, maybe you mean Ekason, but that's okay. What can you tell me about your encounter with the late Namibian president?
Yeah, I think firstly, our condolences to the people of Namibia. We have lost a great tree in the forest of Africa and the world. I had the pleasure of meeting His Excellency President Geingob in the early 2000s, where we were planning certain developments and certain structures of strategy for the country. And I was absolutely amazed in the way that he was a leader, his way of thinking, and it's a true loss, not only to Namibia, but to this continent.
Now, let's talk about his leadership style. How would you describe it?
You know, President Geingob was an astute politician. He was a leader within the liberation organization of SWAPO for many, many years, was a prime minister and then a president. And his leadership style that I experienced, and so many, was that he was indeed an in-depth thinker. He was a person that thought through many processes before speaking, and I found him a very intelligent person and well-informed, and therefore, in my opinion, not just a leader, but also a very, very well-organized statesman.
Well, you know, talking about him being an in-depth speaker, thinking through processes before, carrying out a plan, what would you say were some of the major contributions of the late president during his lifetime in office?
I think Dr. Geingob had three huge attributes. One, he was a continued unifier in a country that was born free and independent in 1990. He was part of that unifying strategy of the country. Secondly, he loved the youth. And a leader that inspires the youth to become the leaders of the future is important globally. And in specifically, he truly loved to participate in the growth of the youth of Namibia And lastly, he was a huge promoter of the economy, of the infrastructure, specifically infrastructure, of Namibia to ensure that it was economically viable and that it could actually stake a claim on this continent as one of the countries that was showing one of the largest growth with all its wealth that it has.
Now, aside being a lover of youth, I mean, for people in Namibians, how do you think they'll remember the late president?
I think they will remember him as a person that was a leader, that led when he was a prime minister, that took over from Sam Nujoma, who was an icon in the struggle of the freedom of Namibia. They will remember that man filling a big amount of shoes as a leader. But I think the legacy of President Hage Geingob will be the fact that he continued to not only inspire the rightful place of his country, but as the recent past leader of SADC, the SA Development Community, always tried to unify, I think, their position, not just of the country, but of the continent. He served at the United Nations. He was a global statesman. And I think the people of Namibia can be proud of having such a leader in their history.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us the life and times of the late Namibian president, Hage Geingob. Thank you so much, Neil De Beer.
Thank you for having me, and blessings to all the people in Nigeria.
Former President of Panama, Ricardo Martinelli, begins his electoral campaign looking for a second term in office, despite a Supreme Court rejection of his final appeal against an 11-year jail term for money laundering. Martinelli was officially presented as a candidate of the Realizing Goals Party at a rally in Panama City, where his supporters waved blue and white flags and chanted that they will stand with him in a struggle with Panamanian officials. In a speech, the former president and businessman said he was not guilty of any crimes and accused authorities of persecuting him as the country gets ready to hold elections on May 5.
Yo soy inocente de todo lo que me están acusando. El único delito que he cometido es defender al pueblo de Panamá, defender nuestro país de quienes quieren robarse la esperanza. Hace un año lo advertí públicamente que los poderosos harían todo lo posible para sacarme de la carrera a la presidencia de la República. Ayer se consumó el inicio de ese golpe de Estado en Panamá. Pero aquí estoy yo, pueblo panameño. No estoy derrotado. Cuidado, me acaban viendo asesinado.
Nearly 100 activists from the nationalist group marched through the center of Lisbon in a demonstration against immigration and Islamization of Europe 5 weeks ahead of general elections in which the far right could make a new breakthrough. With banners, torches, and some bombs in hand, they marched through the fashionable Chiado district under the gaze of tourists, surrounded by a large police force separating them from passers-by, some of whom shouted anti-fascist slogans at them.
Estamos aqui para dizer alto e bom som a Portugal e à Europa toda que queremos nos juntar a este movimento europeu para pararmos a islamização da Europa, que afeta a nossa matriz cultural e a nossa independência histórica desses povos muçulmanos. Portugal aos portugueses faz todo o sentido, como faz França aos franceses ou Dinamarca aos dinamarqueses. Nós defendemos a Europa das pátrias carnais, onde todos os povos vivam fraternalmente, como tem que ser, e com o inimigo comum, que são os imigrantes não europeus.
O objetivo da manifestação é o respeito pela minha cultura e pela minha nação. Somente isso. Porque pode haver imigração desde que seja produtiva. Agora, uma imigração selvagem como se está a passar, nunca poderei efetivamente concordar com. Aí está, a minha nação tem cultura e venham respeitar a minha cultura porque eu respeito a cultura dos outros. Não vou a qualquer outro país sem falar a língua ou integrar-me na mesma.
Não, isto é a pior coisa que pode existir.
And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Abducted Ekiti school children have regained freedom. Results of rerun by-elections held in some Nigerian states have started trickling in. We also told you that Namibia's president has died at the age of 82. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.